Hello guys, so I figured I'd do a little brush cleaning video with you. I've been trying to clean up the edge of my woods for the last year or so, and what I do is I just take 1 or 2 trees at a time so that way it's not too much work. So I thought I'd bring you along and show you what's going on. Now normally what a lot of people do whenever they cut their brush is they pile it up into a big burn pile, but for me I found since I'm cleaning the edge of the woods it's just as easy for me to push it off into the holler and let it rot. It doesn't really bother me. Now, normally I would use my dad's 4000 with a loader to help push the brush, but we got it in the garage the other day and it just would not start back. It seems like it's not getting any fuel. So we're going to work on that while we're off for Christmas, but we may just use my old David Brown and the grater blade today. But first off, we've got to see if we can get it started. It's 42 degrees, has no glow plugs, no grid heater, no block heater, no anything, and no ether either. So we're going to see if we can get it started. Blade hooked up. It's just a little cheap blade, but it works for what we're using it for. Now, if you ever been around tractors or have ever heard anybody talk about them, a tractor normally has a 3-point hitch on the back. Now, 3-point hitch is because 1, 2, and 3. Now, you have 3 points of contact. You've got your 2 bottom arms, and you have your top link. And your top link is able to screw in and out so you can adjust the angle on your tool. So a lot of people are probably wondering what exactly is a David Brown. David Browns were an English tractor. Some of them made it over to the States, especially after they joined partners with Case. Now, this is not international. This is when Case was still Case. Case had stayed with the David Brown tractors, at least in like their under 100 horsepower. Any Case tractor that you've seen in the 70s and 80s that was under 100 horsepower, chances are it was just a David Brown badged Case. I've had this tractor for about 2 years now, I guess. I bought it off the original owner a couple towns over from me. I painted it, and we had to fix a couple fuel leaks on it, but I've baled all my hay with it, mowed quite a bit with it, and just done little odd jobs like this. So I've got my 4-wheeler here, but I think all I'm going to need today is the saw. So we're going to make sure the chain's all nice and tight, and we're going to make sure it's full of bar oil and make sure it's full of fuel. Now, first thing that you'll notice, the chain has got some slop in it. And if you remember my last video, chains don't need to have too much slop in them. So we're going to go ahead and get that thing tightened up before we get started. Alright, we've got our ear protection, gloves, eye protection, and peanut butter crackers. Anytime you're parking something on a hillside, I just so happen to kind of find this, I guess it at one point in time was a stump. It's kind of flat. But the biggest thing about parking on a hillside is always turn your wheels so that if the tractor did get away, it's going to go uphill this way and not woo downhill that way. So here's what I was talking about, clearing the edge of the woods. Right there would be the technical woods. But there's a few trees that's kind of growed out into the pasture. I'm going to leave that big oak down there, and I'm definitely going to leave my big tree right there. But some of this smaller stuff I'm going to try to get rid of. There's some of the limbs I was talking about earlier. I'm just kind of going to push them up to the edge of the holler. Not, of course, into the holler because, you know, I might wreck. But just push them up to the edge and let them sit there and rot. Now, I cut one of these yesterday and drug the brush. This was the biggest one, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and get this small one out of the way, and then we'll focus on which way we want to follow the big one. Alright, we got it down. Now let's start delimbing it. Alright, now this biggest part of the tree right here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to saw it up for firewood. I believe this is a poplar. could be wrong though, but I think it is a poplar. Poplar's not really the best firewood, but I hate seeing something like this go to waste. So we're gonna saw it up and maybe bust it in halves. Now, I'm no firewood pro by no means. I'm still learning. One of the best tricks that I've learned though is go through your log, especially if it's small enough to turn by hand. If it's not small enough to turn by hand, you may need a cane hook. But go through and cut them down to about right at my toe. And then once you get ready to finish your cut, just go ahead and roll the log over and start from there. Because if you get your saw in the ground, that's an automatic way to dull it. Well, let's see what we can get pushed around. I don't really want to film this part because I don't really want to mess up and go off in the holler. So I'll just get back with you here in a minute. Well, we got that part pushed up. It's a lot easier than dragging it to the woods, I'll tell you that much. This may turn into a pretty cool turkey blind or something next year, who knows? Well, kind of an update on the bigger one. I got to sawing on it, and I guess I was trying to really work against gravity, which is never a good thing to do with a saw and cutting a tree down, but I wanted the least amount of room to carry it. Ended up figuring I better play it safe, better safe than sorry, and kind of hook a tractor to it and give a little persuasion. And it's down, so let's get started working up this one. Also, big shout out to my cousin for coming up here and making sure everything went smooth. Thanks, Ben. Not all chains are created equal either. A lot of these chains you buy in the store today, a lot of them are made with foreign steel and they're not as tough. But if you ever come across any older chains at the flea market that look like that, especially if they have the hook that says USA, go ahead and buy them. Because I promise they will be a better quality chain than anything you can buy today. Also, whenever you're tugging a tree like that, yeah, I kind of got in my holly tree a little there. But also, whenever you're tugging a tree, make sure that you have plenty of chain. And if you don't have plenty of chain, a ratchet strap will work pretty good as long as it's not a big tree. Because the last thing you need is that tree falling down and that tree smacking the back of your head on a tractor. Also, be very, very mindful that if you pull the tree back this way, the tree could have a notion to fall back that way. And if the tree falls back that way, it's going to jerk the tractor. So make sure if that does happen that you're in as straight a line with the tree as possible. So I came back to the house and ate me some lunch, and as I was going back up on the hill, I thought, well, I might as well take the four-wheeler up. I'm going to take the gas up there, I'm going to take the oil up there, and I'm actually going to go get the other saw. Turns out I've just got into more work than what I had planned on. This is our 300 Honda. We've had this thing since, shoot, I guess I was probably 2 or 3 years old. I can barely remember my dad having an old blue Yamaha. Just barely can remember. So this four-wheeler's been around the majority of my life. Haven't done anything to it other than put a set of tie rod ends on it, and I got Dad a new set of tires for Christmas last year. Probably the most reliable thing that we have on the place. Sometimes your gun racks can serve as dual purpose. For us, a lot of the bars that we cut down, it's in places that you don't really want to take a tractor and bush hog. So we have an old steel straight shaft with a steel brush head on it, and then we carry our rakes, and then we also carry usually a big crowbar with us in case we see any rocks sticking out of the ground to pick up. So this saw hasn't been started all year, but as you can tell in the last video and by the looks of the video, we've put a new bar and a new chain on this saw. We've put oil in it and we've put gas, so let's see if we can get it started. Remember, go all the way down with it. Up one. Wasn't really expecting it to start that easy, it not being started all year. Yeah, you can definitely tell the difference between the 29 versus the 170, but I mean, you should. It's about twice the size what the little 170 is. Since I put a new bar and new chain on it the other day, I just kind of want to get out and play with it and make sure everything's still running good on it. Well, we got all the firewood sawed out of the big one with the big saw. But let's go back to the little one for this small stuff. It's a lot lighter than the big one. Well, we got both trees that we were working on sawed up into logs, or fire logs, I guess. Broke out the wood buster. Going to try to bust up some of this stuff and let it cure out a little easier. It's still in the 40s, but once you start running this thing, it gets pretty hot pretty quick. So I'm going to work with this for a couple minutes or so, and I'll get back with you. Well, I got some of it busted up. It ain't really busting up that good, but I guess it shouldn't because it's still green. I was just hoping that I might get a jump on it seasoning, but I might just have to let it sit up here for a little while and let it dry out. So let's go get the tractor. Let's go push our brush up and we should be done for the evening. Let's see how good it starts warm. Oh yeah. It starts awesome after it's been running a little. So this is always a good sight to see. A couple summers ago, we had this bank cut off plumb from out there, plumb almost down to my grandma's house. It was just rutted out with cow trails and cow paths and stuff like that, and it's pretty much just clay is all it is. As you get up here further on the hill, it's not as clayey as it is right here, but from about this fence that we've got coming plumb down to the road, it's pretty much about straight up clay. There was a few spots that took grass, and what spots come up real good, but there was a few bare spots. So what we done is we ended up getting some of that it's basically a big roll of rye straw. We rolled that part right there, and then we just sprinkled some of my old hay right here, and there's actually some grass coming up in it. So we've got a few more spots a little out through there, but the majority of it's still out through that way that I really would like to get done sometime this fall, and hopefully while me and Dad's off for Christmas break we may get some of that done. So I know this video seemed kind of choppy and me kind of running around everywhere today, but that's pretty much what happens on my days off work. I teach school, so I've got a lot of days off during the fall and the winter time that I can just do piddling stuff like this. So I figured I'd take you guys along today and just kind of show you what my day consisted of. Thanks for watching, and once again, if you liked the video, please like and subscribe.